The Magic Pill documentary. I watched the movie finally, and I feel really excited to share a review with you about it. And I'm also intimidated as fuck because this is a really hard topic to talk about. It's such a me against them mentality when it comes to diets and eating animals versus not eating animals and just what to eat. Because in a quote from Melissa Hartwig, food isn't just food. Food is so much deeper than that. It's so much more emotional than that. It runs so deep. And it's a very, very touchy subject. So first and foremost, we got to go in knowing that. And second, I made the mistake of Googling reviews for this movie before I decided to record this video. And the one video that popped up was about it was a vegan man debunking the facts about the movie. But the first thing he pointed out was a man in the documentary that had a triple chin. And I just we gotta hold the phone for a second. We cannot be pointing out other people's body types. That is fucked up. You have absolutely no idea ever what somebody else is going through. And just because somebody has extra fucking fat or skin on their body doesn't mean that they're an unhealthy person. And that is what is so messed up in our society, is that we think that fat equals unhealthy and skinny equals healthy. And it is so fucking far from the truth. So let's just take that in for a second, okay? Because I don't give a shit about appearances. Okay, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Let me take a sip of my smoothie. My vegan smoothie. So, we get so caught up on labels in our society. And especially in our American society, it's we have to fit inside a box and inside a label, and everything has to be to a T, and we're going to be criticized and castrated practically if we do not follow those mentalities. And I really feel like this way of figuring out it takes you away from figuring out what works for you, because you feel like you have to fit inside a certain dogmatic principles, and God forbid, health issues arise and you want to do something else, and people get upset at you. I can't believe you're switching it up, or that you believe this bullshit. And it's no, we need to get back to the principle. I'm spitting. That's how hyped up I am. But we need to get back to the principles of learning how to listen to our bodies. I believe wholeheartedly, our bodies are trying to have a relationship with us. That our bodies know what is best for us. Not we know what is best for our bodies. We need to learn how to listen and how to tune in. And that takes a lot of unlayering, because it's emotional, way beyond food, way beyond movement, ancestral even, you could say, with our lineages. It goes so deep. And so you have to find what works for you. And that is the one thing that I really love about my training with the Nutritional Therapy Association. And the reason why I do like the Magic Pill documentary is because it closely resembles my education from the Nutritional Therapy Association. But I hate recommending documentaries because, documentaries are super biased and they only focus on one tiny little point. And I remember when I was a vegetarian, borderline vegan, watching tons of documentaries also about being vegan and vegetarian, and I was all for that, So the number one reason why I like the Magic Pill documentary is because it closely resembles my nutrition education, and so I feel like you could watch it and get a good idea of what kinds of healthy meats to eat, what kinds of way or how to cut out the processed foods and getting back to eating real food. The other issue is this huge keto fad that we are on right now, and the debate about high carb and versus high fat and low carb versus low fat. And I've struggled with, disordered eating in some way, like constantly tracking and portioning and fitting inside a calorie bracket. And the truth is that when you eat real food, you don't need to do any of those. You just don't. And so it's learning how to eat real food and finding what works for your body and timing nutrients correctly. So play around with eating high carb, real high carbs. We're not talking about processed breads and things like that, because yes, the entire world consumes grains, but the entire world also isn't the home of Monsanto and isn't plugging shit tons of chemicals onto their grains. Like, American grains are different than European grains. It's just true. So that was a rant. You need to get back to eating real food and playing around with what works for your body. Some people thrive on a keto type diet, but I work in a paleo restaurant, and when people come in and they're like, oh, I'm strict keto, I can't have any sugars, no fruit, no maple syrup. One lady was even looking at this delicious cake that we have, and she was like, oh, maple syrup's bad. Like, let's get away from labeling foods good and bad. Let's get away from saying you're wrong and I'm right. Can we just celebrate finding what works for us? That is what I truly want to promote. And yes, I could get into the debate about veganism versus eating meat. I feel like these, and I'm just going to use the labels as a blanket statement, so please don't take it too seriously, but I really feel like vegans and paleo eaters are so closely resembled because we both very deeply care about animals and we both very deeply care about the planet. And that is something that I liked that the Magic Pill documentary touched on, is that we need to get back to these natural circle of life situations to help the planet out. Because honestly, mass industrial agriculture is not going to save the planet. It's like government messaging that is coming in to tell you that. They want to, if literally there was absolutely no meat, and I mean, yeah, factory farming is awful, but factory farming for meat is awful. Factory farming for vegetables is also awful because it takes a lot of pesticides to keep plants alive. And it's true, just as with the factory farming for meat, you can thrive and have great organic systems without antibiotics and all the horrible things that we are pushing into the factory meat farming industry. And you can also have delicious organic gardens that thrive without using pesticides. But the truth is that the circle of life works with living and dead things. Something dies, it decomposes into the ground, it fertilizes the soil, it keeps the soil nice and healthy, which allows for us to grow our plants and good grass that the animals eat and that the plants can thrive on. And I truly believe that it is a beautiful, sustainable, all-encompassing environment that we need to embrace for the planet, because we're all under the exact same sun. And I too love animals, and I don't want to see any of them abused or, all the awful fucking things that we do in this society because we don't give a shit about life. Like, what is life? We're so uncomfortable just talking about life, let alone realizing that every single living thing has a life, whether it's a fucking ant or a cow, okay? Man, I really don't want to get off topic here. If you ask me directly what my personal beliefs are, I do believe that you should eat good, wholesome, animal-based fats and proteins because the cells of our body require fat for you to live and thrive. I think a vegan diet has a time and a place, but I do not think that it is sustainable long-term for your health. This is something that I would never ever say out loud to my friends because I am involved in a highly vegan community and vegetarian community. If somebody came to me and asked me personally and wanted my help, I would be happy to lend a hand. And this goes back to the way our body functions. The gallbladder, for example. I know a lot of vegans whose gallbladders fail, and a lot of people who just plain eat low-fat diets and their gallbladders fail. And it's because gallbladders end up failing because the specific intention of a gallbladder in our body is to emulsify fat at a proper time. It's in our body, it's designed that way. I absolutely do not believe that the universe, God, creator, whatever you want to say, I do not believe that we were designed flawed. I believe that we were given what we needed in this world and that we have the opportunity to learn what works best for us so that we can become happy and healthy, sustainable humans promoting a happy and healthy, sustainable atmosphere for our lives. So seriously, can we just drop the labels? Can we just love each other? Can we just say, okay, you're going to eat that way and I support you if you decide to do something different? Love for love. Quit the hating and the bashing. I'm not trying to convince you here to eat meat and stay away from carbs. If there's one point I'm driving home, it's eat real food. Get away from the processed shit and play around with your own types of portions with eating carbohydrates and fats and proteins and see what works for you. That's the biggest message I could say. If you want to know more about my nutrition education, I feel like at this point in time, the Magic Pill documentary is the closest thing that you could watch to see what that's about. I wish you well. I hope this video resonated with you and that you receive it kindly. From my heart to yours.